Welcome to Screen Chat, live from the Media Hub on riotradio.ca. So,
we break down all things pop culture, from the hottest takes to the deepest cuts.
Some things that are comic accurate shouldn't be on the TV.
From the latest Marvel blockbusters. I think we need an Amazing Spider-Man 3 before we get that, if that's the case.
Very true.
To DC's Darkest Nights. And like, how do you get Christopher Nolan to do superheroes and make something that good? And it was just number one.
And to galaxies far, far away. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin, all these characters who are mainstream, they have to not just take things at face value.
We got you covered. Plus, you never know who may join us. Alicia put up the one, yeah.
It's up.
Looks a bit.
To tell us that.
Yeah, he literally did tell us that.
I'm at flight,
These guys are trolling.
This is Screen Chat.
Pop culture, real talk.
And everything in between.
Live from the Media Hub
On riotradio.ca.
To Screen Chat, live from the Media Hub on riotradio.ca. I'm your host, Justin, and I'm very excited to be back. We haven't done a Screen Chat in a couple of weeks due to some technical difficulties, but we are back, and I'm really excited to be here. Before we even start, as you guys know, Screen Chat is your show all about the latest Marvel movies, DC Comics, Star Wars adaptations, and much, much more. Behind the scenes today, we got Eldin. Eldin, thank you again for being here as always, and Carson, glad to have you back in the studio as well. So today we do have a really fun episode for you guys, and as you guys could tell from my little purple friend next to me, we are talking all about the latest villain in the MCU, Galactus. I am so excited to talk about this character, as Galactus is one of my favorite characters in all of comics. I feel like if you're a friend of mine and we talk comics and MCU, I've had this Galactus theory and tease and nod for probably the past 10 years. Shout out to my boy Alex. He even said to me recently, he's like, dude, you've been talking about this guy for years and now we're finally getting him in the MCU, so he better be cool. And I'm like, dude, I am so excited to talk about him. And he will be making his official MCU debut next month, or this month actually, in a couple of weeks, in Fantastic Four: The First Steps. So I thought today we should dive into Galactus. Who is he? What is he? Is he a villain? Is he a hero? Celestial? Cosmic entity? The whole nine, and let's just go for it. So who is Galactus? Well, Galactus originally wasn't always known as Galactus. He was actually known as Galan of Taa. So Galan of Taa was I can't even call him a human. He's like a humanoid, if you will, because the people of Taa actually existed before the Big Bang in Marvel. So Galan, the best way that I could explain this to you guys, if you guys like Superman, Galan was kind of like the Jor-El of Marvel. So Galan of Taa, he was a scientist, he was really smart, and so were the Taa people. Their civilization was super futuristic, high quality stuff, and Galan sensed the danger. He sensed a space plague, and he had to warn his people about it. And unfortunately, there was nothing that they could do to stop the plague. The plague started wiping out the people of Taa one by one by one, until eventually Galan said, you know what, I'm going to go up in space with the crew, and I'm going to try and stop this plague by sacrificing our crew to join and form into a star. Unfortunately, that did not save it, and everyone on the cruise ship unfortunately perished, besides Galan. And now, here's where Galactus' story kind of starts. So, there's two different versions to his origin beyond here, and I wrote this in my notes as well. So we're going to focus on his origin that was revealed to us in Thor issue number 169, as this was told to Thor by Galactus himself. So Galactus states that when he and his team unfortunately did not survive, the Watcher actually stepped in and he saved Galan. So he took Galan onto his own ship and for centuries experimented on Galan. He ended up just, over pumping Galan's body like this with just cosmic energy after cosmic energy. And eventually Galan wakes up and Galan sees what his new, identity is. And he's like, I've been captured. So he eventually escapes the Watcher, and in his new ship, he forms the armor that we see there, and he becomes Galactus. Now, this is the telling of his origin in Thor book 169, like I mentioned. Other stories state that Galan, upon death, was approached by the entity of sentience, and entity of sentience of the cosmos, I should say. He fused with Galan, extending his life as Galactus. So Galactus as an origin, that's pretty much it. Like, there's not really a lot of other stories. Similar to America Chavez from Doctor Strange, his people existed before Earth, therefore there are no other Galactus variants. There's only one Galactus throughout all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, comic universe, extended, whatever you want to word it, there's only one Galactus. So that's a really key point about the character. And one of my favorite, I guess, known facts is that no matter what entity or media or comic you read or whatever it is you consume, no pun intended to Galactus there, that is the same Galactus. So we do now know him in modern day as the Destroyer of Worlds, the Devourer of Planets, and Galactus is one of the more formidable foes of the Fantastic Four, as that's like his main, I guess, adversaries here. But yeah, just like his cosmic presence there, that's one of my favorite comic book shots panels ever. That's him like devouring the Earth. But yeah, Galactus, he needs to feed off of the energy and the life energy of planets to survive. And taking his shape as he does in the cosmos, there is a whole lot of fear. Because what do you do when you see something that big and catastrophic and strong and powerful approaching Earth? Well, for more often than not, you just have to accept defeat. Like, how do you beat Galactus? Like, if you're an Avenger, if you're a mutant, an X-Men, member of the Fantastic Four, a villain, how do you beat this guy? Like, he's the real inevitable, if you ask me. So no diss to Thanos there. But I thought, why not? I want to just discuss now further in details what these powers, I guess, what they are, for lack of better words. So he has some crazy feats in the Marvel comic universe, and some of them go along like this. So his cosmic abilities include manipulation of matter and energy. He also has teleportation powers and psychic powers such as telepathy and telekinesis throughout the entire galaxy. And which is one of the more disturbing facts about Galactus, is that he could create and restore life. Like, dude, this guy, like, it's crazy. And he could also alter his size at will. So these are some crazy feats, crazy powers, and very hard to scale. But there's one thing that's the constant, and that is Galactus. And whether we like it or not, Galactus is coming. This is not no, like, street level threat, like bank robber villain. This is a galactic level threat for the MCU, for the Marvel Universe. And whether we like it or not, Galactus is coming. And we will be seeing him this month in Fantastic Four: The First Steps. And I don't know how they're going to be able to defeat that, because some of those powers, man, are like, they're just too catastrophic. Now, further down the line is, I guess, why does Galactus wield his powers in such a nature? Well, I kind of teased on it earlier, and it's because Galactus needs the energy of planets to survive. And he's one of those rare, I guess, villains / like cosmic entities where it's not that he wants to destroy you or he wants to kill you. He has to, or else he's going to perish. So one thing about Galactus that a lot of people kind of overlook, especially in extended lore, is that he actually traditionally feasts off of dying life and like dying planets. So it's not as brutal and, like, I guess, thoughtless as you guys may think, or heartless, I should say. But then there are a few instances where he does target like higher planets, such as the Earth or the Skrull planet, even Norrin Radd's home planet, who we'll discuss soon. But yeah, one thing about Galactus that I find so menacing is just that stature. Like I mentioned, he could alter his size at will, and he could shrink himself down to size to be, you know, my height, but he could also like be 20 million Earths in size. I wish I was joking when I say that, but that's one thing about him that really like always intrigued me, that what would happen if Galactus targeted Earth today? Like, you know, would we just see him out there in the skies? How would we interpret Galactus? Now, a lot of other people have, I guess, also been in the same situation as me that I just made up. And what would you do if Galactus did come to your planet? Well, the aforementioned Norrin Radd, he had to do something. And when Galactus was threatening to invade and destroy his planet, Norrin Radd, I guess, out of sheer bravery, I should say, said, you know what, I will serve you as your herald. And that is the Silver Surfer, who I did just tease upon. And I think the Silver Surfer, for me, is one of not just the coolest herald, but just one of the coolest characters in all of Marvel. And I feel like Like just seeing this comic panel just giving me goosebumps. I actually have a decent amount of Silver Surfer comic books, and unfortunately I did not bring them because it's about Galactus today, but Galactus is in a fair share of them. Another cool variation of the Silver Surfer is the Fallen one. Now again, I don't like have a photo of that with there, but the Fallen one is another alias of Norrin Radd, depending on what book you kind of look at. And also Silver Savage as well. Thank you, Eldine. Silver Savage is very scary as well. I'm not gonna lie. That's one where I'm like, ooh, you're not cool. You're just a little bit too scary for me. So yeah, that's another good shout there from Eldon. Another Herald that really intrigues me for Galactus, and this is more modern Marvel comics, so if you're not too caught up on the immediate MC lore, this happens within the last 10 to 5 years, or 5 to 10 years, sorry, is Thor. Thor, the mighty Asgardian warrior there, he takes on the Herald of Galactus for a bit. And they do have history. I did mention how they have a comic from way back in the day. And recently enough, yeah, Thor was the Herald of Galactus. If I'm not mistaken, this was a story during the pandemic. So if you were really taking in a lot of Marvel media, chances are you were reading this story and keeping up with it. Eventually, Thor does, I guess, kind of like an Uno reverse, because I was reading up on some articles and there is a point in time where Thor is just like the powerful one and he eventually overpowers Galactus. In the book, I'm pretty sure he kills him as well, which is like pretty interesting. And in other aspects, he just knows how to wield that power. Another one of my favorite heralds of him is Johnny Storm. Now, Johnny Storm, I like Chris Evans's adaptation on Johnny Storm, so I didn't really pull up a photo of this. But there is a comic, funny enough, where Johnny Storm and Sue Storm swap powers, and Johnny Storm goes by the Invisible Kid, and then he ends up becoming Galactus's herald. That's a really cool one. And then another one, too, that's pretty cool. And this, not a lot of people know this, but I was doing some research and I thought, you know what? This kind of fits. This is on Friday. Superman comes out today. Did you guys know that Superman was actually once a herald of Galactus? I think this is really cool, this panel here. I guess there was a Marvel DC tie-in, and on the day that Superman comes out worldwide, it's pretty cool that he was a herald of Galactus. So that's a nice little screen chat fact for you there. Donning his all crimson gold look there, so I think that is pretty cool. And then more recently, and this one has turned a lot of heads, and we're just going to address it now, but coming up in a few weeks, we will see his latest herald, which is Shalla-Bal, taking the form of the Silver Surfer. Now, I will say, I'm not mad that we have a woman Silver Surfer at all. I think it's cool. Like, Julia Gardner's playing her, and I think it's awesome. There's really cool comic panels. And more traditionally than not, if we have a female Silver Surfer, specifically Shalla-Bal, then that means we have Norrin Radd, because Shalla-Bal is Norrin Radd's wife, and more often than not, we see them become the Silver Surfers, and we see them go together. I just love Norrin Radd. The Silver Surfer, like as a 2000s kid, is one of my favorite characters. So knowing that we have Galactus coming in a few weeks, I wish we had Norrin Radd there as well. But yeah, so that's kind of my, I guess, like, interpretation of Galactus's comic book status, powers, and heralds. So let's discuss the dynamic between Galactus and the heralds. Now, we do know that all the heralds, their whole point is that they serve Galactus, and they go throughout the entire galaxy and they find planets for Galactus to feast on because he needs powers. Now, in Earth, we know that the Silver Surfer Norrin Radd in Rise of the Silver Surfer, he ends up going to Earth, doing the exact same thing I just mentioned. But then eventually, Norrin Radd sees Earth for the humans and the family, the unity, and he essentially tells Galactus to please spare the Earth. And in more often takes than not of Galactus, he does spare the Earth. There is a really cool moment in which we're going to get to, but in the original Galactus first appearance, that is the storyline that they follow. So Galactus's first appearance, which again we're going to dive into soon, it does follow that same formula as well. So I do really enjoy the consistency of that. So now, yeah, let's before we fully dive in though to comic book appearances, we do know that the heralds circle around the Earth and they find, like I said, planets. But what would happen if Galactus met a different foe on those planets? Well, he does make quick work of a lot of like life forms and entities. But one thing that I was trying to explain to a lot of people back in the day is that Galactus is not Thanos. In fact, he's much scarier, much stronger, much more, like, I guess, brooding. And I say this because Galactus isn't a villain. He just needs to destroy planets to live. So there's no real reason why Galactus can't dismantle villains and like some of the hardest hitting foes in the MCU and in the Marvel comics. Now, there are a lot of comic books, including ones that I have, where Galactus does acknowledge, shout out to Roman Reigns, my goat, where he does acknowledge that Thanos is a mighty powerful Titan and he has those 6 stones, and it's not an easy task to overcome Thanos. And they have gone to bat against each other. They have had multiple encounters, multiple fights. There is actually respect between Galactus and Thanos, because when they fought, Thanos was able to knock off Galactus's helmet here. And after Galactus defeats Thanos, he says, wow, I've never had to push myself that hard for a mere mortal. So it is a pretty cool dynamic that those two have. But if you think Thanos was a huge big bad, then like we haven't seen anything yet from Galactus. So now I do want to dive into some of the more comic book appearances, some of the more traditional appearances that a lot of fans would know him from. And let's dive into the aforementioned Galactus trilogy. Now, this was the first ever appearance of Galactus, and we see him in Fantastic Four books 48, 49, and 50. This is the OG trilogy here. And I kind of dived into the story earlier, so I wrote some notes. I'm going to give you guys a bit of a summary. So we are introduced to Galactus and the Silver Surfer to the Marvel Universe. The Watcher, he has that iconic cover where he warns the Fantastic Four of Galactus. And there's not much they could do about it. When Galactus arrives on Earth with the Surfer, he just overpowers them all. I wish I got a photo of this, but he actually has a different suit. It's like red and green. This would be scrapped in issue number 49, where Jeff Kirby would eventually go back to the traditional ones that we see here with the purple. And what's really cool about this, I guess, story is that the Fantastic Four are completely powerless, man. Like, they can't do anything against him. And the Silver Surfer as well. Like, they can't beat this guy. So the Watcher has to step in. And we know that the Watcher's not allowed to step in, but he has to. So he steps in, he helps Johnny Storm go get this device to defeat Galactus, and then he helps Alicia, not my Alicia, but a different Alicia, Ben Grimm's Alicia, I guess, convince Norrin Rad to become good. So after the Silver Surfer turns on Galactus, the Watcher steps in, the F4 attack him, they come to a stalemate, and Galactus just enrages, releases a surge of energy, and disappears. So I guess the Earth is saved. One could say he spared Earth, one could say he got bored of it, but yeah, so that's the first introduction of Galactus, and I do think that this is a really good start because this is a constant consistency with the character of Galactus in regards to Earth. And I feel like that's good that they established that right off the bat and that they continue to utilize that throughout, I guess, his comic lore. Another comic that really, I guess, caught my eye, and I say this because I wasn't too familiar about it until I did my own, I guess, research, was Galactus the Lifebringer. Now, what's really cool about Galactus the Lifebringer is that this comes in a comic where the Ultimates, they're trying to revive the universe and save planets that have been destroyed. And eventually the Ultimates, I forget who's on the team specifically, but they mess with Galactus's programming and essentially reverse him. So now Galactus, donning a silver and yellow look, becomes Galactus the Lifebringer, and he goes around to each fallen star and planet and just gives them life. I think it's a really cool, I guess, contrast / like contradiction of Galactus the Destroyer, the Devourer of Planets, because now his job is to go do exactly that but reverse. And I don't know about you guys, but I think the ability to go around and just make something out of nothing, especially on like a grand scale, like planets and life and stars and suns, is almost like scarier. And it shouldn't be scary, but it's almost scarier than him devouring them. So I do think that that is a really cool like reference that we do have there. Back to his more traditional routes, he has taken on multiple Celestials, and he's just a destroyer of worlds, like I said. And what I like here is that we do have this amazing photo of him just in each palm destroying a planet. Like, dude, how do you fight this guy, man? Like, it's literally such a doozy for me to even think about, because look at that. That's an amazing shot. And it just, I don't have much more to say than that. It's just a crazy comic book shot. And I don't understand how you're able to overcome that. That is not just anything. That is like crazy, earth shattering. Now, going more to more traditional stuff that we as casual MCU fans would know. Like, I'm not a casual, but more casual fans would get this. Galactus has had many encounters with well-known MCU, I guess, villains, including Ego. Now, Galactus does battle Ego, and they adapt this into the Fantastic Four animated series as well. So I'm going to tell you guys that version of the take. So this is a crazy take, but Galactus fights Ego. He wants to destroy, the living planet. And not only does he get help from the Fantastic Four, he also gets help from Thor. So Thor, using Reed Richards' device, amplifies it with Mjolnir, and Mjolnir gives Galactus even more power to just destroy Ego. It's nuts, man. Like, this was in the 90s as well. Craziness. And I think that alone, to me, knowing that, like, we saw Ego in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, we know exactly how he operates, knowing that Galactus came together with the Fantastic Four and Thor just to destroy this guy, that's pretty peak writing, if you ask me. Another one that Galactus has also interacted with is the Phoenix Force. Now, the Phoenix Force traditionally is Jean Grey, but actually in this adaptation, he fights Rachel Summers as well. And what's cool is that they kind of have a stalemate. I don't know if this is like a constant, because stuff gets retconned, but essentially, like, Rachel Summers is like, yo, I'm not gonna let you destroy worlds anymore. I'm not gonna let you, like, I guess, suck the life out of planets. And Galactus says to her, well, you know what? You got me there. Like, we're even. But remember, I suck the life out of planets that are almost destroyed. You take perfectly well and good and healthy life when using the Phoenix Force. And I think that was a pretty cool stalemate that they had, because personally, it's like, it's pick your own poison, right? But I do think that Galactus, when it comes to, I guess, scaling him against stuff like Ego, the Phoenix Force, Annihilus, whatever you want to call it, he definitely holds his own in almost every adaptation. Now, I want to now dive into Galactus in mainstream media. So now, if you're not a huge comic reader, you don't watch a lot of extended lore videos on YouTube, you might have seen Galactus appear in some of these mainstream medias. And shout out to you, Carson, because we are going to be diving into one of the more obscure Galactus appearances. But before we do that, we're going to look at the Fantastic Four animated series, which came out in the 90s, that I did reference before. Galactus here has scaled himself down to size, obviously, like I mentioned. And yeah, in this one as well, he does have a whole stalemate with the Fantastic Four and the Watcher. So I like that they, in this series, adapted that original storyline into the animated one. Coming up next, this is for you, Carson, we got Lego Marvel's Galactus. I think this one is like, it's so cool that Galactus was in Lego Marvel. It was terrible once you unlocked him, though, because he didn't, power up and go big. He stayed as a little minifigure. But for a lot of kids in and around my age, we played this game and we saw Lego Galactus in there as well. And then moving on to Ultimate Alliance. Now, this is probably my personal favorite mainstream Galactus, because this scene is so cool, because he's looking at the Earth as if like he's watching it. And he says something like, how dare they thwart Galactus? And then he just stands up and he just, oh my God, he palms the Earth and just destroys it. It's not the real Earth, obviously. It's like his hologram. And that's how Ultimate Alliance 1 ends. Like, that's the cliffhanger at the end of a video game. That was so cool to me as a kid. And to me, like that, like I said, in mainstream, that's probably my favorite Galactus by far. And now going on to the next adaptation of Galactus. So I want you guys to really put yourself in the 2000s here. It's 2007. Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer is coming out. And we know Galactus is going to be in it. But we unfortunately get the infamous Cloud version of Galactus. Now, the Cloud of Galactus did signify the biggest what if, I would say. Like, the Cloud of Galactus was very, like, intriguing to me, because we know the Silver Surfer, Norrin Radd, he pulls up to Earth. He's the main villain, tells everyone that the Destroyer is coming. eventually Sue Storm's like, okay, cool, what is the destroyer? And he goes, my people call it Galactus. And then he just explains the lore, and it's this cloud. Now, I didn't pull up the scene for copyright reasons, but we do see a close-up of the cloud, and you kind of see like Galactus's horns here, and you see like his helmet. We're supposed to get an actual version of Galactus in Fantastic Four 3, which we saw Galactus and T'Challa be in the film Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. However, it got canceled. I'll die in the hill that movie should never have gotten canceled, because Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer was a peak film, but unfortunately Fox had other ideas. And now, all these years later, we are getting Fantastic Four: The First Steps, which will see Galactus make his MCU debut. Oh man, seeing this in the trailer was so cool, because I love Galactus. He's one of my favorite characters, like I said, of all time. And to finally see him there, just insane to me, insane. I gotta pour one out, man. Like, it's gonna be so good. And I think Galactus, in this, obviously, he looks a little bit scaled down. However, we do know that he could alter his size. So yeah, Galactus, First Steps, I don't really have much to say, because they have been hiding him a lot in the trailer. We haven't seen his face yet. We've seen the back of his head. We've seen his feet, but we haven't seen a lot of what he will be doing besides destroying. We've seen him walk through the city a couple times, and I'm really excited to actually see him don the mask, or the helmet, I should say, don the suit, and see how far he could take it. Now, before we fully wrap it up here, I do want to say that, yeah, I'm just really happy that one of my favorite MCU characters is finally making his debut. This is a character that means a lot to me. He means a lot to fans, and I feel like the ever-growing presence of Galactus is finally going to be here, and I can't wait to see the effect that he has on the MCU. Will we see him in Secret Wars? Who knows? Will we see him in the upcoming, I guess, I don't even know what to call the upcoming Avengers films, because obviously we have Secret Wars and we have Avengers Doomsday. Will we see him interact with Doctor Doom? Who knows? Will we see him capture Franklin Richards in Fantastic Four: The First Steps? Because that is the, I guess, consensual theory. Like, he's come to Earth to get Franklin Richards, and he wants to capture him, and he wants to make Franklin his newest Herald. So we'll have to see what happens there. And we do have some Instagram takes before we fully wrap it up. So my boy Dante, he says, the F4 universe is so cooked, they cannot handle all that about Galactus. Someone named Carson's Tractor, I don't know who that is. Shout out Carson. He says, Fantastic Four is Marvel's last chance to do a live-action Galactus within the MCU. I agree with that, honestly, because if they mess it up this time, I never want to see it again. Evan, shout out to Evan. He said he's either going to be insanely powerful or a one-time villain that is beaten and we'll never see him again. I really hope that is not the case. Like, I'd be very disappointed if that unfortunately came to fruition. And finally, my boy Jack, we missed him out last time because I didn't have his message saved, but this time I do. He says, my long reply again, LOL. It's really taken me by surprise how Galactus isn't really considered an Avengers-level threat by a lot of comic book fans. And I fully agree, man. Like, people don't understand how crazy Galactus really is. I feel like a lot of people have seen, like, Thanos or, like, Loki and thought, yeah, man, it doesn't get bigger than that. Even Kang the Conqueror, who I love. Shout out to Kent. We just did an episode on that. But this guy right here, for me, is the be-all, end-all. He is the biggest Marvel villain for me. I don't know why Eldon has to shake his head at me, man. Like, I'm just trying to enjoy the vibes. Like, what? Like, that's so mean, man. This guy's always hating on me. Anyways, yeah, I just love that he's here. He's back. He's back where he belongs, on the big screen. He's not going to be a cloud this time. And this time, he really is going to hopefully devour many worlds for years to come in the MCU. All right, guys, so I think that's going to do it from us today here at Screen Chat. Thank you again to Eldon and Carson behind the scenes for watching and teching. We cannot do the show without you guys. This guy Eldon's hit some next pose. I don't know what that was. But thank you again. And thank you guys to everyone watching at home. I appreciate the continued support throughout all the Screen Chat episodes and on Instagram. And before I do wrap it out, I do want to give a quick shout out to my new Instagram. I did just make a brand new Instagram called Justin_on_the_air. And on there, I will be posting a lot of Screen Chat clips. Yeah, unfortunately it was. Yeah, Eldon's like, was it taken? Yeah, I couldn't use dots. I had to use underscores. Yeah, I want to post all of the screenshot clips and stuff going forward on there. It's going to be a public account, and it'll be easy for you guys to access and share. So thank you guys again for the continued support on there as well. But yeah, that's going to do it from us today. Please don't forget you can follow us on social media at DCSA Media Hub and on my personal page that I mentioned. I'll tag that down below. And yeah, I've been Justin. Thank you guys so much for tuning into Screenshot. Please stay safe and enjoy your FNF Friday live from the Media Hub on riotradio.ca.